Good evening. Welcome to our daily class of Rabbi Nachman on Patreon. And we are holding in Torah 77, a new Torah. It's a very short Torah. These Torahs are like a little rest stop on the big highway of these Torahs, because each one is a journey, each one is an effort, each one is an ascension, each one is an expression of Rabbi Nachman's own service. His own revelations became the Torahs that we learn. And so what he teaches us is really about what he experienced. And I think this is what we all want, is that we want that experience of Hashem, the experience of a living sentient being, not an idea in a book. Vaya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz, and on that day, from Zechariah, God will be king over all the land. Well, he's not king now. Let's see. Dehine eklalu, the general principle, shekol mashuno anchu osim, everything that we do, hen betfilot, hen belimud, whether in prayer or learning, in order to reveal that God is king. Wasn't God already king? Many years ago, I said, we have to make God famous. And they said, Avraham, God is already famous. I said, no, he's not. Look, who believes? Who knows? So people know, but not everybody wants to get on the train. Now he tells us, go straight to a very interesting, deep, Kabbalistic idea, that the breath that comes out of your mouth is the idea of the letter Hey in God's name. V'hakol, and the voice, hu bechinat, the hamshacha, the drawing down of Vav, the letter Vav. So we have Hey is the breath itself, and the idea of the voice coming out. In other words, what does voice travel on? It travels on breath. And when you pray or learn with your voice and your breath, with awe and fear, let's call it awe, yeah. People get down about fear, fear is too negative. But we can understand that. When we learn with love and awe, we reveal the idea of Yud and Hey. So you have God's name, Yud, Hey, and Vav and Hey, the eternal name that we don't even say out loud according to its natural vowelling. When you read the letters backwards, it starts out with the breath, and then it goes to the voice, and then it goes to the next Hey, the upper Hey, which is awe, and Yud, which is Chokhmah, which is the right side of the tree, which is love. So the breath and the voice are channeling the love and the awe. And you can hear this in people's voices when they learn and pray. And the more in tune that you are to love and awe of God, well, of course, the more you'll hear it around you. When you learn a law like this, everyday halakha, well, certainly we're making the world one. We're making God one in the world. God is one. But it depends on us to extend out the learning and the prayer with this idea of fear, awe, love, which is really love in Kabbalah is an extraction of admiration from the mind. It's the admiration which produces the sense of loving somebody. You admire them. When you learn an entire chapter of the Talmud, Naaseh mematronita, we take the queen, the matronita, v'halachot hem al min delay, And the laws are the world of the queen. Ki ein melech blo am. So, you see, the halacha is the highway that the queen travels on. And this, then God will be king over all the world. It depends on the halacha being expressed into the world. And this reveals that there is a king. In other words, the matronita, which is Aramaic, we can translate it as king. I like to translate it as queen because it's the lower presence of God, the feminine aspect that we're more referring to. When the queen is in her chariot of the laws, then she is revealed in the kingdom. So it's not, it's not about talking about God. It's actually saying the words of his prayers, and especially the halachot, the laws, the boundaries, the parameters that the Torah gives us for human life. That's the revealing of the queen, that the Jews are doing this book, living it. Now, as mevoar le'amayen, it is explained to those who look deeply, shechaser kan rubo kakulo. Now, Rabbi Natan shifts, because remember, Rabbi Nachman's main student, is writing down most often the words of Rabbi Nachman. He says, suddenly he shifts and tells us most of this Torah is missing. Interesting. Ki ikar amechuvan chaser min hasefer. The essential aspect of why Rabbi Nachman wanted to teach us these things are missing from the book. V'lo zachiti lamod klal al davarim elu. And I did not merit at all to understand truly these words. Stop. End of Torah. I told you it was short. Now we see that the tzaddik himself is telling us that it's missing something. And so what do we do with that? But it's still in the book. So they chose to put it in the book, but they didn't choose to finish it. Or Rabbi Nachman reviewed everything before it was printed. And he chose to leave it like this. In other words, you set out to do something and you get halfway through and you say, it's fine now. Let's stop. You painted half the car, something like that. No, he chose that, no, this is fine, just the way it is. For some reason. No, and a lot of times I believe, and this is personal, that Rabbi Nachman wanted us to fill in the gap. Rabbi Nachman wanted us to use our mind to join with his mind, to join the stream of thought, and to take it to its conclusion. Now, what's interesting is when you learn some Kabbalah behind this, you say, wait a minute, let's stop for a second. We have the hay, which is the breath coming out of your mouth. It's made of air, right? And then you have the voice. What is your voice? It's the vibration of air. That's the Vav. Remember, we're spelling the name backwards, which is actually the permutation of the month of Tammuz, which we're just entering, Chodesh Tov. Okay, so we have the air, and then we vibrate the air. That's the Vav. And then the upper hay, the first hay in God's name, what would it be if we're going through a natural projection? Well, the upper hay is called thought. So we have air being vibrated by your voice. Now, a voice is all kinds of unspecified vowels and consonants. They're not yet called words until they get into thought. So the world of the upper hay is the world of bina, makshava, thought. So the world of Bina is the thought that causes the voice to vibrate in air. And then we go to the upper, to the Yud, the upper first letter of God's name. The first letter of God's name represents the intentionality, the reason why you're having those thoughts that become that voice, that becomes that air that is the conduit of speech. Why are we having those thoughts? Well, he's telling us to reveal the king, because everything we're doing with our voice is to reveal that there is a king. He has a will. He's personal. He's intimate. He cares. He's awesome. Remember, he is always he, she, because, Hashem is above gender. And so now we have another take on this name Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, what it represents in the human expression. And perhaps it's a little more of understanding about this Torah Ayin Zion 77, what it's coming to share with us. It's that when we have intention, thought, because intention is not the thought itself. Intention is why you're having the thought, the reason for the thought, vibrating into this world through sound of the voice and onto the breath that reaches out into the world and changes the world. Because all the world has been changed by the words of prayer, the words of learning that has come out of the mouths of the Jewish people for thousands of years. So we'll let that stand there, because it's actually time to hit the highway down to Holy Hebron. And we'll see you again with our next Torah tomorrow, or Ayin Chet 78. Vayiten oz l'malko v'yarem keren mishicho, and God, and he will give boldness to his kingship. So the kingship idea is coming back. First, we're revealing the kingship. Now we're revealing something about it. It's bold. It's not passive, hiding in the corners. But then Oz Malko, he will give boldness to his king, Vayaran Keren Mishicho, and he will lift up the horn of his anointed one. So the king becomes, could be the Hashem or a human king. Malcho is also Mashicho, the one who is anointed. And this looks like another interesting journey that we'll come to next time. God bless you all. Have a great week.